Lesson 1.6, relations. Now over to the right here is a coordinate plane. A coordinate plane has one origin. That's the point in the middle. It is divided with two axes. There's the x-axis and the y-axis. And then finally, there are four quadrants. The quadrants are listed by Roman numeral: 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now, an ordered pair has two parts. The first part, the 3, is known as the x-coordinate, while the second part, the -5, is known as the y-coordinate. Now, if you actually wanted to graph this point, you would go to the x-axis, 1, 2, there's 3, and then go to -5 on the y, which is down, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That would be the point 3, -5. And always do the x left and right first, and then up and down second. All right, here's 3 points, point A, B, and C. Your job is to pause here and write down the coordinates of each point and the quadrant that corresponds with each point. Okay, you should have written down the ordered pair and the quadrant. For the first one, A, it's 1 and then up 2. So 1, 2. And it is in the first quadrant. B is -3 for the x and -2 for the y. And it is placed in the third quadrant. Point C. It has -5 for the x-coordinate, and since it's on the line and does not go up and down, it has a 0 for the y-coordinate. Now its quadrant, since it's neither up in quadrant 2 or down in quadrant 3, we simply put what axis it's on, and it is on the x-axis. So it's not actually in a quadrant at all, it's on the axis. Okay, next. For example 2, you're to make 2 points, A, which is 4, -2, and B, which is 0, 5. So draw a graph and put those 2 points. All right, A is, the x is 4, and the y is -2. So go over 1, 2, 3, 4, and then down 1, 2. So point A is over in this direction, and then put a capital A to label it so we can tell it from the other one. B is 0 and up 5. So over 0 and then up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then put a capital B next to the dot. So that is point B. Okay, next. Now, here's a few definitions. The first one is relation, and a relation is a set of ordered pairs. A set is a single ordered pair or a group. Please notice the fancy little brackets that surround the three ordered pairs. Since this is a set, which is the math word for group, we have to put these types of brackets around the entire group. Second definition is domain. The domain is the set of all the x-coordinates, or the first coordinates. The ones that come first are the x-coordinates. So in the one above, the x-coordinates are 2, 4, and 5. So to list out the domain, we put D for domain, put the fancy squiggly brackets, and then list the numbers in order from smallest to biggest. That's how you list the domain. Third is the range, and the range is the set of all the second or y coordinates. This example above, 5, -7, and 0 are the y coordinates. So to list the range, put the numbers from smallest to biggest, -7, 0, and 5. And that's how you list the range. Smallest to biggest, just like the domain. Okay, next. Now, there's 4 ways to write a relation. The first way is the order pairs that you see listed on the left side. 3, 2, -2, 3, 0, -3, and 0, 2. The second way that you can write a relation is with a table. Table has x's on the left, y's on the right. Now you don't have to put the numbers in order, you simply just have to make sure they match up x and y. So the first order pair is 3 for x, 2 for y. -2 for x, 3 for y. 0 for -3 and -3, 0 and 2. That is a table. Now you should be able to go, and if I gave you a table, write the order pairs. Or if I gave you order pairs, write the table. The third way is with a graph. So if you see the 4 dots on the graph, you should be able to take the dots from the graph, make a table, or make order pairs. So 3, 2, -2, 3, 0, -3, and 0, 2. So those 4 dots should match up with the 4 order pairs and the 4 numbers from the table. And the fourth and final way is with a mapping. In a mapping, you have 2 ovals. First one's labeled x, the second one's labeled y. On the x side, you put all of the domain. So 3, -2, and 0. Do not write 0 twice. We do not repeat numbers in a mapping. And then on the y side, we again put each number once. 2, 3, -3. Do not repeat the 2. Now to tell which ones match up with each, we draw arrows. So 3 is paired up with 2. So I draw an arrow from 3 to 2. -2 goes with 3, so I draw an arrow. And 0 goes with -3, so I draw an arrow. And then finally, 0 also is paired up with 2. So I draw a second arrow from the 0 up towards 2. And that's how you make a mapping. You don't repeat the numbers, and you draw arrows. Now, if I give you any one of these 4, you should be able to write the other 3. Also in this example, down here at the bottom, it says write the domain and the range. Now remember, domain and range is in order from smallest to biggest. And also, we will not repeat any numbers just like in a mapping. So the first number in the domain was -2, 0, and finally 3. Notice I did not repeat the 0. And for the range, the lowest number is -3. The middle number is 2 and 3. Notice I did not repeat the 2. They are in order from smallest to biggest, and there's no repeating. All right, the final slide I think is going to ask you to do what we just talked about here on this slide. Above is the order pairs. You're asked to write a table, a graph, a mapping, and then write the domain and the range. So you should pause here to try to do this example. Okay, so X and Y for the table, 4, 3, -2, -1, 2, -4, 0, -4. You do not have to put a table in order, and you're allowed to repeat numbers. Graph, 4, 3, -2, down -1, 2, -4, 0, -4. There's 4 dots for my graph. Mapping. 4, -2, 2, then 0. 3, -1, -4. I'm not going to repeat the -4. Now I'm going to draw arrows. 4, 3, -2, -1, 2, -4, 0, -4. Domain in order, smallest to biggest, -2, 0, 2, and 4. And range, smallest, -4, -1, 3. And no repeating in the domain and the range, just like no repeating in the mapping. And that's all you need to know about relations.